Today, where's Heather? And when you can't see her, isn't that when she's the most dangerous? This is ChillPoint. Hey, everybody.
Hi.
Heather may be joining us partway through this episode. She had a meeting. But hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. And
It is nice to see everybody.
welcome to the my twin co-hosts Beige and Beige's hair.
Yeah. We're doing a style savvy today.
Hey, I hope I sound okay. This is the first stream I am doing with my new microphone. Check it out. You can see it.
Yeah. You can't help but see it.
Yeah. So today we I got it. For those of you who are new here, this is ChillPoint, the show where we talk about CheckPoint, which is the show that we do on YouTube with all the video game news that we think is relevant for the week.
And the jokes. Let's be fair. The jokes that are part of that too.
That's true.
Yes.
In fact, I would go so far as to say the jokes are probably the primary objective, news being the secondary objective.
I did see somebody comment, or I have seen people comment anyway, that they think that they appreciate the fact that our kind of news show can just go ahead and say the important shit. And I'm like, no, that's called editorializing. Like when actual news shows, I'll take the CBC as an example, right? Like, because every newscaster has bias. Never let yourself not believe that. But that's for a reason, right? And you try to have you try to do what Wikipedia does with that whole neutral point of view bias. Well, news organizations have been trying to do that for years, and they don't always succeed. But the bias of a news organization, the really good ones tend to just be like, we want to tell you what happened, and we want to lay all the facts at your feet because we want you to see how it went down. Like, we want you to tell you what happened, tell you maybe how it happened, and maybe even get into why it happened. But we just want to put all that to you, and then it's your job to internalize all that.
Whoop.
I guess we're back on a 3-up now.
Oh, hey.
And then you do that. Whereas satirical news shows or comedy news shows or news shows that make jokes, their whole thing is it's real bright because of the
window. It's always been there. Don't worry about it. Keep going.
The whole point is to set up a situation where we can tell you a joke in association with it. And it does make the news way easier to digest, but it does mean that you're getting a very skewed viewpoint. So never look at what we do as delivering only the news, right? That we're glad to tell you the things that are going on, but we are setting it up in a way so we can make fun of it.
Oh, you're still talking about the show.
Yes.
And there are important stories that happen in the video game industry that we don't talk about because we don't have any jokes about them, you know. So that's not necessarily something that is, you know, we don't intend the show to be comprehensive, I guess you'd say. Yeah. Also, I just realized I should point the light at my face instead of at the ceiling.
I was kind of wondering. You seemed a little dark, but I wasn't gonna make my first thing coming on be criticizing the look of anything.
Normally, I have a light by my computer, which I normally have pointed up as just kind of like a general light for the room. But then when I'm on stream, I have it pointed there. But obviously, I don't want to point it in my face all the time.
I would rather be a little bit warmer.
Yeah, no, I always change that. I
don't
was
know
going to
why.
ask you as well why you didn't do all
Auto
that.
white
When-
balance always sets us at like 2800.
Kind of a more blue.
We're always at 2800 Kelvin, and I'm like, I'd rather be 3200 Kelvin. I'd rather be just a little richer in the face.
When Heather wants to be warmer, she just has a blanket that she wears.
The shawl, yes.
Yeah.
So
Hey, if we're going to stream from home, I'm going to be comfy.
Absolutely.
let's talk about gaming news. Starting with this whole Frogwares malarkey, which
Oh, goodness. Man.
I think malarkey, brouhaha, perhaps. Like I feel like that's it's. I mean, like
A bit of a boondoggle.
like Graham said in the in the story, like it's one of these things that's going to be a while before it really shakes out completely.
To sum up for anyone who didn't do their homework and didn't watch CheckPoint,
No, didn't watch the teaser.
didn't
We
watch
don't
the
call
teaser
it
trailer.
homework
My
anymore.
apologies. What's happened is that there's a disagreement between the development studio Frogwares, making a game called The Sinking City, and their publisher Nacon. We think it's Nacon. There's been a disagreement between the two of them as to who actually gets to make money and who is allowed to publish a game on a
Different
platform. And that's weird because it's like they can publish on Epic, they can publish on Game Planet, but they're not going to publish on Steam. And go watch the thing for an explanation. But yeah, it's the fact that they've had to go to court multiple times.
The fact that they made a pen and paper RPG did not tell Frogware and put their logo on it, but and then also like took their game off of a different website and upload. Like, it's just so weird.
Yeah, the publisher's making a lot of steps to kind of assert themselves in a way that maybe they're not legally allowed to do.
Like we have friends who are, you know, in the pen and paper RPG, you know, publishing world, and you know, it's a lot of, obviously it's like a ton of work making a pen and paper RPG. You know, there's umpteen Kickstarters about it, and people making them, and you know, people spend years and stuff. Where the idea that somebody that a pen and paper RPG could be created without telling anybody about it just seems so bizarre.
Yeah. And that is definitely some take you to court shit. If somebody is like, I'm going to take your stuff and then I'm going to turn it into this other thing. And as the video game publisher, I'm allowed to take whatever it is that you owe and make derivative work of it. And I'm like, oh man, if that was in the contract, indies everywhere are now scouring their contracts to see are somebody can actually.
Anyone who's publishing with them should be scaring their contract and reconsidering it.
Right?
As far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Well, and the sort of weird extra wrinkle to this is that there's the bizarre sort of court ruling on this, because it's one of these weird court rulings where it's sort of a not a negative ruling, in the sense that it's basically it's not that Frogware has been ruled against. It's more but it's because the company invoked this COVID-19 emergency restriction thing, which is basically like, don't mess with the contracts because we're in an emergency situation right now. So it's like it's not like it's been sort of properly litigated in court. It's like, we can't deal with that right now, and we just don't want the company to, you know, the emergency thing is supposed to be like, it can't be dealt with right now, but we don't want the company to go out of business in the meantime, so we'll just keep it going.
Yeah.
As Frogware points out in their article, their using of that emergency thing is pretty disingenuous, considering that
it's probably not for that kind of thing. Yeah.
Well, and also that they're having a great year. Like 2020 was great for video games because everyone's at home playing video games. And so they're having so it's not like they're suffering greatly because of COVID-19 from a profit perspective.
Can I point out the one thing that really gets me in this whole story is that our protagonist of the person who's fighting really hard against this is a frog, and the logo for the person that seems like the villain is a snake.
It's like it was set up from the beginning.
It's just, why, little frog? Why did you choose the snake to be your friend? Like, it just kind of, what?
You knew as it was carrying you across a river that the snake was going to bite you halfway through.
And take you both down. Like, I don't know. It just, seeing that imagery as the story went on, and I was like, why, little frog? Why?
Yeah. But read
Parable of the snake and the frog.
Yeah, go find some more articles on this. I think it's an interesting read, and it's a very interesting position to it obviously is going to be more fought out, and I think if nothing else, getting more familiar with the name Frogwares and the name Nacon, and then using that as to inform your own position. We're back in that thing again. Is probably a really good idea to learn these names and to be like, now what part of supporting either of these businesses am I actually doing?
There's also a slight aspect of this where it's like, from what I've read, and as Graham says in the thing, this game, The Sunken City, is getting like 60s and 70s on Metacritic. Like, Frogware is also known for doing a bunch of the Sherlock Holmes games,
right?
Which have in some of the like very mediocre ones. So it's not like it's. I mean, not that them not making AAA titles makes it so that they're not deserving of protection or anything, but the idea where it's like, I'm going to support this company and buy the game, and it's like, I don't know if I actually want to play this game.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'd like to advocate for like buy a game from like indies and stuff. I also don't like to advocate to buy things that you don't think you'll like or enjoy.
Yeah,
because my money is limited, and so I would rather support things I like and enjoy, even though I see other indies where I'm like, man, I hope they get to keep making that thing that I'm probably not going to buy because I don't think it's my jam.
And I think it's also worth pointing out, according to the Maricat, and I trust the Maricat in this case because they also said they've been doing a bunch of reading. They've discovered that Frogwares has sued the 2 previous distributors of their games for almost the same issues, and so it's important to go do a lot of reading.
So there may be more trickiness to this story than
oh, sure.
You know what we're going on. A lot of what we're going on right now is the Frogware, blog posts and stuff, which is pretty compelling. Like from what they put, and from what I understand, it's not like the argument is not that that their distributor didn't sort of download this game and re-upload it. Like, that's not the dispute, because it seems from going through the files that it's pretty obvious that's what they did. The dispute is that they're saying that they can do that because that was the only way we could do it, because you are violating the contract by not letting us get the original files, so we had to steal it from this other place.
Yeah. So Nacon had to download this game and change things in it from the Game Planet side, because Frogwares wouldn't give Nacon a version to go on Steam, and Nacon's asserting that Nacon asserts that me, Nacon, have permission to upload to Steam, but Frogwares no give Nacon game to upload to Steam. So Nacon go find game to upload to Steam.
Yeah, which I admit, like, is if I can understand the solution of like, okay, well, we solved the problem, but it's like that's not the problem though. You probably still have to go through sources. You should be countersuing.
There's a lot of creative ways I can come up with to solve problems for a loading ready run if I need to, but I know that some of them are probably not great ideas. They're creative.
Yeah, let's not do those.
All court filings should be written in caveman talk.
Yeah. That's why that whole bullshit of the party of the first part and the party of the second part, that kind of legal speak is, I mean, it's widely derided, but it's also like that kind of classical legal speak, which they don't really use anymore, was so widely known, because it's like you do shit like that because you need to be able to differentiate. You can't just say they did this and they did this to this guy and they didn't like it and these guys didn't like it and so they didn't like it and they didn't like it, so they did this and they did that. And it's like, well, who's they in all these contexts? It's like, well, you need to have ways of
By the
That's
way,
why they say first party and
differentiation.
third party and
yeah,
things
it's like
that.
we don't do that anymore. We just say names.
if you haven't, go on YouTube and watch Unfrozen Caveman Lawyer, some of Phil Hartman and Jack Handy's greatest work. It's an SNL.
Anyway.
It's an SNL sketch.
Oh god,
Anyway.
it was a classic.
Yeah, classic SNL sketch.
Right. So it's like, what, 50 years old?
Yes, I'm 50 years old.
I don't know. I don't watch SNL.
It was not. No,
30?
it's the 1990s. So yeah, the 30s.
30.
Yeah, 30 years.
Well, I can't say 20 anymore. Every time
probably-
you say 20, you know it's actually
SNL
been
20 years
30.
ago was actually this. It was actually unwatchable. Just like SNL 30 years ago, and SNL 40 years ago, and SNL this year.
Okay, I'm sorry I called you old.
So GTA, and GTA and the hacking thereof. Not really hacking, but investigations. I guess you should say. We could say. Somebody by the name of Toast with an O, with a zero.
Zero.
Okay, I was going to say,
zero-
it's not spellable to know. I'm very confused.
Toe zeros.
And I guessed. I'm assuming it's
To
got to be
zeros.
toast and not tossed. But yeah,
I like to zeros.
to zeros.
They were wondering why GTA took something like 6 minutes to load
That is a very long
GTA
time.
Online.
online.
Yeah.
And by using various behind the scene, various tracking software to see what
Analytic
was
tools.
going on.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, you can see in one of the screenshots that they used that the stack analysis tool is called Luke Stackwalker.
Ah, nice.
Also, their assertion that Luke Stackwalker, they're like, that's what I used to do this analysis. There's probably better tools by now. I don't know. I haven't done this in a very long time. And I was like, whoa, okay. Like, this is the person doing this knows what they're doing, but hasn't had to do a lot of these things in a while.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting to me.
And it apparently the processing of that array of all the all these in-game items, which it's something like 63,000 items.
Yep.
And when the game boots up, it's got to process that array and do a bunch of stuff to it. And the way it does that is incredibly inefficient. It's basically like going through and remove. It's for one thing, it's using like a really old library to do it, or a very inefficient library, and then it's doing a bunch of stuff in a very odd way. And the general consensus is it's doing it in a way that is like not great, but not that bad if you have, say, 100 items. But
Because you would never see it be a problem. Yeah.
but the kind of things that they're doing to it are the function that's being done to it is sometimes it's called like a quadratic, in the sense that if the array gets twice as big, it takes 4 times as long to do. And so the idea is that GTA has been around for a long time, GTA Online even. So it's possible that it was fine when it started, and they just never actually went back to check it out.
Yeah.
And-
it does sound like a thing that was just probably implemented first and then never updated.
Yeah,
the thing
yeah.
that because well, and that's part and parcel to really large projects like this, is that you make a thing and then it works and you're like, great, move on. Like, you're like, I've made something, I know it's not the most efficient way of making something, but I did it quickly and
Well,
I can move on to the
I-
next thing.
I've always assumed in video games that when you implement something at first, you maybe implement maybe not the most efficient manner the first time you put a thing together, and you come back to it because you have certain other parts of the game you have to also work on, and that's the thing you come back to refine because it takes more time.
But you also don't know, like, I mean, they're talking about it's a 10 megabyte JSON file that has 63,000 entries, and what Toast's assumption is, based on seeing what it is that this is what's called a net item catalog, where it's items that you can purchase in game using money that you would earn in game, not like microtransaction stuff. It's like literally like, I made $10,000 blowing up this guy's house, so I can use this $10,000 to buy an item from this catalog, right? So it has to enumerate everything in that catalog, and you might have only designed this when they were designing the game and testing everything out. They might be like, I need something to test this thing against. Okay, well, here, write up your corner cases into a file. Okay, I've got a thing that's about 15 items long, or maybe even 100 items long. I have that much. I don't have 63,000 things. So you test it with a very small set of information, and then as they start filling in all these pieces of the code later, be like, well, the item catalog is getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and they're testing it locally, and maybe they're testing it on computers that are incredibly fast that can actually do the calculations in maybe about less than a minute.
Sure.
They're not seeing any sort of natural slowdown, but it's all single threaded apparently. So it's only using like one core of a multi-core computer. It's only going to concentrate on one core. And it's showing up more for people who don't have really high-end systems. And as the catalog, I imagine, gets bigger, it's going to take longer and longer, and nobody was really tying into that thing of, I should go back and restructure this inefficient code, because they didn't think about having to do that.
Sure.
And yeah, because why would you? Maybe you're not aware that these things are happening, but the players are aware, but they're trying to complain about it, and everyone's like, "Lol, just get a faster machine. We're trying to run it on a potato, right?"
And I know that happens, but I also know that like in a lot of video games, when they're making stuff, like the final artwork isn't always the artwork that gets used. So my theorizing is always, okay, well, I mean, it could definitely be that, or it could just have been like, it's a thing that wasn't meant to be there forever and it's forgotten about, or it was something that was implemented, but it works good enough and we'll come back to it later, and then stuff happens because other stuff happens.
And you don't, like, as a coder, it's kind of not in your, it's in your interest to be like, I should put some comments here to be like, I know this is inefficient and I'll come back to it, or I'll mark it with something so I can go search for it later. But also as a coder, if you're putting in things in the game's source that's saying, I know this is inefficient, I'll come back and fix it, you're basically signaling to all the other coders that you write shit code, you're telling your boss that you write shit code, and that nobody's going to want you to write code anywhere else because you write shit code.
I meant more in terms of like, you've got a deadline, so you're just putting in the fastest thing you can, and then you're going to come back to it later because updates are supposed to happen. And
that's fair. I mean, writing bubble sort is way faster than writing like insertion sort in my mind.
Okay.
Trying to figure out how those two algorithms work are two different, but bubble sort's really slow, and insertion sort is at least faster, and I should write things that way, but I don't, because I can't get my mind around how to do that. So I write the slower way to do it, and like, I may come back to this or I might not. I just know that it works. So I feel bad for whoever it is that wrote this, because now they're being displayed to the entire internet that they wrote very inefficient code. Even though they're like, no, I write really good code. I do write really good code. I just had to do this as a stopgap, and I feel really bad for them.
So out of curiosity, I was just like, I was thinking about this just this morning. And here, let me, I want to try something here.
Okay.
Do
we need to hang on to something, or?
Aha.
So I'm a JavaScript programmer, not C, which is what this is in. But you can see here, so if I create an array file, and I fill that with 63,000 items of, this was a sample that he posted. Here, let me make this a little bigger. He posted, he was like 63 items like this. So I'm going to fill this with 63 items, 63,000 items. But I'm going to give them all random number keys. But I'm going to shorten the random number keys so that there'll be collisions. So, because one of the big things was that the array has to be deduplicated.
Yeah.
And one of the problems was it was being deduplicated after every entry in the array. So it goes like look at the first one. Is it the same as the second one? Okay. Second one. And so it was doing that on every one instead of doing the entire array and then deduplicating the whole thing.
Huh.
Yeah.
So here's bang. So I just filled that array with 63,000 versions of that item.
All right. If this whole thing, if the stream goes down, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, this is why.
I've tested. So now this command that I'm going to do here is a very quick in JavaScript, which is, by the way, a very inefficient language. In the console, which is an inefficient way of using JavaScript. There, I just did it. So now, so the unique array contains 100 items as opposed to 63,000 items because I've removed all the ones that weren't unique.
Sure.
Or they didn't have that unique thing. So what I'm saying here is that the idea of processing, like 63,000 seems like a lot of items, but from a computer point of view, it's not. Like that many items.
You should be able to step through them quite easily.
It should be able to do them in less than a second.
So now the trick here is that everything that was in this JSON file, apparently, every one of them was unique because every one of them is a distinct item.
Right. So the like deduplication in that kind of situation, like it's not terrible to do just as like a sanity check. But you certainly don't need to do it with the amount of excess that this person was doing, apparently.
Yeah. So it was very this was a very clever thing that Toast did to notice that here's the problem, here's why these things are getting hung up. There might be specifically it might have been that the standard library, because if this is all done in C, and I'm assuming it probably is, if the standard library functions themselves, like the string to detect the length of a string is string length, then scanf is to like is a standard function in the C library as well. These have been professionally made, and they're supposed to be bug free because they exist in a standard library. You're supposed to be able to rely upon them as a thing to do. And if they're relying on those, if Rockstar was relying upon those standard functions, there's this assumption that they're going to be the best way of implementing these things in the first place. But when you use those functions, which might not be the most efficient, they're rock solid, but maybe they're not the most efficient. And then you're also tying them up in these loops, and you're implementing them in a very inefficient way in your code. It doesn't matter where the blame lies, because it's probably both people who are responsible, right?
And as the person who made the post, Toast said that like it's not even that hard to fix. Like somebody at one developer at Rockstar could fix it in a day. Like it's not even so. Who knows? Maybe this will get enough attention that Rockstar will do that.
Yeah.
Or maybe the other thing is this is based on decompiled. Or looking at the behind the scenes stuff they
disassembled it.
Disassembled it. But maybe there's something going on that's actually important that is not obvious. You know, maybe there's some weird system going on that is required for this thing to work. And it's not just like an inefficient thing. There actually is a reason for it. Probably not, but who knows? Maybe there's a reason.
I don't know. If there's an update to that story, which there probably won't be, it being like, oh, hey, they fixed load times would be kind of neat.
Yeah, I do think that the only update we're going to get to the story is if they end up fixing the load times. I don't think we're going to see an update where Rockstar comes forward and say, "There's a reason why it's like this."
No,
they just won't talk about it.
I don't expect that, and I wouldn't expect us to like actually report on an update in our CheckPoint teasers. It would just be nice to see that being like a footnote in an article somewhere, being like, "Oh, hey, they did this thing." I mean, somebody pointed it out.
You know that if they fix it, someone is going to write up a story being like, "Rockstar has quietly fixed this problem."
If there's no news that week, yes.
Yeah.
I've been on gaming news sites. I know how I can tell when it's slow.
Do you like beef?
Yeah.
Do I have to shell for it?
Go to Arby's and get yourself some tasty beef or other. I don't even know what Arby's sells,
It's
but
roast beef sandwiches.
Yeah.
you can
Fake
get
hamburgers.
for a limited time. You can get Shovel Knight special edition stuff, which you get like little disc launcher thing, which is like whatever, but it comes with DLC for the game, which appears to add like you can get like a cosmetic thing of like a big like beef sandwich that floats around you.
Yeah. Don't know
Yes,
why.
these are mostly just cosmetics, aren't they? Like that are
Yeah.
Arby's related.
And I do feel like it something about it kind of fits. Like I feel like Yacht Club Games, the developer of Shovel Knight, is kind of I feel like this is a like maybe Arby's proposed it to them. They're like, yeah, you know what? Like it sort of fits with the kind of kitschy style that Shovel Knight's going for. And Arby's particularly like sort of already has a slight kind of meme
Yeah, it does.
level to it. And so yeah, this seems like a totally fine
It's
joining of brands.
yeah, it's what's interesting to me too though is that it's like this is an indie. This is a indie with a popular level of penetration. Like the fact that people know what Shovel Knight is.
Have they ever made anything other than Shovel Knight? Because I don't feel like they make anything other than Shovel Knight.
They
anymore.
might not.
I believe
And Shovel
they've
Knight is
done
not my jam.
They've done some publishing, I think.
But
Yeah,
but
Shovel Knight is mostly it.
what's interesting about this is that this is an indie developer that now has a tie-in deal, like has a toy deal with a fast food restaurant. And Arby's is not like, it's not like S tier. Arby's is not McDonald's. We lost our Arby's here in town.
Oh, the one in the mall.
Yeah, we had an Arby's for a while, and then it just went away. And I'm like, oh shit, I should have had an Arby's.
Oh, nobody was going there.
Yeah,
you could tell because it had a line for the next place cutting off its line that no one was going to that counter.
and I miss it because I like Arby's, but
We took our Arby's for granted.
yeah.
And now we can't get Shovel Knight toys.
But it's
gone.
fascinating to
That'd be weird
think
for them
that like Yacht Club either reached out to them or Arby's reached out to them or whatever, or maybe it's like there was a go-between who kind of put them together. And I just think that's interesting that was a marriage that needed to happen for these companies to be like, we want to both. Yacht Club was probably like, hell yeah, we want to make toys for kids. That's an awesome idea. Let's do it. And Arby's was like, sure, we'll pair with this very popular, beloved indie game because that's kind of our meme jam we're doing now. It's kind of our social media
Club
thing.
Does publishing, they probably also have people who work out going around trying to do deals like this. Like, it wouldn't be surprising to me that they contacted Arby's, who constantly tweets stuff that's like, we like anime, watch us make things out of ketchup.
Yeah.
But
I wonder if that means that like if we're gonna see a like Way Forward at some point. I'm surprised that Way Forward hasn't tried to make Shantae toys and get that shit into like, I don't know, who's a fourth tier,
Shovel
like
Knight
Taco Time.
got an amiibo. Like,
yeah.
And I can't recall another like indie game that has managed that.
Right?
There's a website I was looking at that was like cataloging every
Shovel Knight appearance?
Yeah, Shovel Knight appearance in other games. And
yeah, they show up in a lot of other indie games too.
It surprised the hell out of me when I saw Shovel Knight show up in Bloodstained as an enemy you can fight. And I was like, what is that all about all of a sudden? Anyway.
Yeah, and then there's the silly Sony controller thing, which is mainly based around the fact that the patent application has the person with the banana, which is
with 2 buttons on it.
Yeah, patent applications are a never-ending source of amusing line drawings.
But for real, if you were going to pick up a banana and use it as a controller, would you not hold it the other way so that it was like angling down, so you have more of a grip. Like,
Yeah.
who holds a banana so that it's angling in like a smile?
Yeah.
I'm
As
gonna
a
level with you.
controller.
I've never held a banana as a controller, so
I don't know how you didn't pick one up and try after you saw that patent photo.
but I mean, it's a, for all joking aside, it is kind of a neat, like the premise, which is different from the video we showed in the intro of the guy like playing Dark Souls with bananas that are used, that the thing that's been around for a while, which is like a sort of
Galvanic skin response.
yeah, skin response, a low electrical response thing where you can connect stuff up and then use them as controllers. This is actually, I believe, using like PlayStation Eye or whatever, some video source to map the stuff controls onto a real world object. It doesn't have to be a banana.
No,
it works
but
with
it's
any
funny.
kind of fruit.
It sure doesn't have to be a banana. Maybe just a
Okay,
banana-shaped object. Wink, wink.
Like
My premise
So,
was completely different than their premise.
yes, the thing I found funny in the article was they brought up the banana as their like patent photo, and then they're immediate like, but it could work on other things like oranges, and I'm just like, but okay, but did you just look at your fruit bowl and be like, I can't think of it, it can be anything, kiwis, like
A coffee mug.
Yeah. What's on my desk?
Yeah.
This Hatsune Miku figure.
I mean
a
the
keyboard.
idea of
Wait,
like
no.
the idea of like, it'd be great if we could have things that could work as controllers that aren't just people having to constantly go out and buy more controllers and they can grab whatever they have, is a neat idea.
Mm-hmm. Also, I think there's also something to be said for if you want to make something, if you're playing a VR game and you want to make a controller or have a controller that is more realistic in some way, like when you're in VR, that's like if I'm holding a DualShock or whatever in my hands, but it's supposed to feel like I'm holding a gun in my hand, then when I'm in VR, I'm still know that I'm not holding the thing that I'm supposed to be holding, right? So if I'm in VR and I'm holding something that actually feels like the thing that I'm supposed to be using in the game, and you can just map the buttons to it, then it feels a little more obvious.
I don't want to play VR first-person shooter that's bring your own gun.
Yeah.
That seems highly problematic.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Just use the gun you already have at home as your controller.
Yeah.
Does the game start to freak out if I start to peel the banana and eat it?
Well, what I was imagining that, like, in VR, to close the loop, in VR, you like look down at your hands and you have the like boomerang style PlayStation controller.
Right.
But in real life, you're just holding a banana.
Holding a banana.
And it actually maps the boomerang style PlayStation controller onto the banana.
Oh, that's good.
And
I look forward to everyone having banana controllers.
And then finally, for the coming up, we're talking about this the EA
not fixing the outcome of matches.
Yeah, match fixing or adjusting the difficulties dynamically, adjusting the difficulty of matches. Which is
that's in FIFA Ultimate Team, which is not the same as FIFA 2021 or whatever.
Which is actually kind of interesting because it's like what's interesting about this is there's a class action lawsuit against them. I think it was only like 3 or 4 people, but it was a class action lawsuit that alleged that they were EA has this technology. Again, it was a patent. It's unclear as to whether this technology is actually in use in any of their games or whether it's just something that they patented. But this technology is something that the idea that it's dynamically scaling the difficulty of various things, the quality of the AI or and not just like when you're playing against an AI, but like actually when you're playing against people. Obviously, in a game like FIFA, you're not controlling all your players at once, right? Your players are partially AI controlled. And so the idea is that and like the percentages of hitting the doing the goals and all this kind of stuff can be dynamically adjusted to better even the playing field, I guess, or to make it a more even,
a fair contest,
fair contest. And the study that they were doing indicated that there's something like 10% more satisfaction in gameplay when they do this. That like people are like, people have more fun games because it's more of a challenge, right? It's more of an even challenge. And so, but the problem is, and what the class action lawsuit was alleging, is that FIFA also has in-game purchases. It's got microtransactions that do things that help you in the game. And so the problem that they were concerned about is that you buy something that helps you in the game, but then the game just adjusts itself to be harder in response.
Oh,
so
yeah,
you don't
okay,
actually
yeah.
get any advantage for buying the thing.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a problem.
Which is kind of a ripoff.
Yeah, it's because you might think, well, that's counterintuitive. It's like, yeah, but if I spent the money to win, if I'm playing a pay to win game and I'm not winning, then then I'm getting ripped off, aren't I?
Yeah, the problem isn't that it's pay to win; it's that the pay to win isn't working properly. So, but what's kind of interesting about this is that the class action lawsuit it's not that it was decided; it was dropped, and the reason why it was dropped is not for strong arm tactics or anything. It's
or a settlement or anything.
It's like the most reasonable way to have a lawsuit end. EA says, no, we're not doing that. They invited the people who were part of the class action lawsuit to come to EA headquarters, talk to the engineers and the programmers who are on FIFA, showed them the stuff, and illustrated how they're not using this technology to the satisfaction of the people who are doing the lawsuit.
Right.
So like they were like, okay, let's show you what it's doing. Look, we're not doing it. These are all the people involved in doing it. Explain to you why you may have seen the results that you saw, but the fact is we're not using it. And so the people, and I guess it worked. The people who are doing the class action lawsuit were like, yeah, fair enough. I guess you aren't using it, and dropped the lawsuit. So,
and it's not to say that like EA has developed this technology, and it's not really anything new. People, I think in the chat, you guys definitely have played games where, as you've gotten more powerful in the game, that the game has rose to meet you, right? It scales the difficulty to be like, well, you're much more powerful than you were before, so I'm going to scale these enemies a little bit more so that they feel that they're a little bit tougher for you to fight against. And a lot of people are saying that the rubber banding, I guess, is a way to refer to that, as Wicker Guide points out. But it's that kind of idea. That's happened in other games before. EA has a developed system they call this dynamic difficulty architecture. I think is what they call it, DDA or something like that. So they have developed a thing and given it a name and an acronym, or not an acronym, but they've given it a three-letter initialization. That's not to say then that they won't use that in other games, and maybe that it would be something that they might decide to use in a microtransaction-filled game at some point. But not this one. They didn't use it in FIFA Ultimate Team, and so thereby the lawsuit gets dropped. But
I mean, the fact
knowing that this exists, you might want to, everyone have their eyes open, right?
The fact that that this lawsuit happened and now was, went through the motions. Hopefully, if there was any plans on the cards to be doing this in a way that would undercut the microtransactions, that won't be happening anymore, because then they know that people are on the guard for that. But
the reason I can see them not doing that is if it comes out that paying for stuff doesn't make you win like it's supposed to, people aren't gonna pay for stuff, and then that kind of just works
Right.
itself out.
Yeah.
But I mean, maybe if it's a game that doesn't have the pay to win, if it's just got cosmetic DLC or whatever, then that might be it might be a good thing to implement. Who knows?
Yeah.
All right, some of the stories we didn't talk about. We can just think of this. I love this. So, there's this great story about speed running Paper Mario, and it turns out that there's some interesting. I always love speed running stories because they're finding all sorts of weird, interesting glitches. In this case, though, the glitch is not with with Paper Mario.
N64.
N64 version of Paper Mario, I should say. Yeah.
The one that was just called Paper Mario and had no
Exactly.
subtitle. Yeah.
So it turns out that the fastest way to get through Paper Mario is to play Zelda Ocarina of Time. And I know what you're thinking, but so what it is Zelda Ocarina of Time has some really broken stuff in it. Which
And boy, have people torn it to pieces.
Yeah, which has been known for a while. It's got some serious exploits in it, to the point where it has arbitrary code execution exploits in it. Which, if you've seen some of the GDQ stuff they do, or stuff like, if you place things in certain spots or move things around or have different things in your inventory, you can actually do all sorts of weird stuff in the game. So basically, there is one broken aspect or one weird aspect of Paper Mario is that for whatever reason, it doesn't clear the RAM, I guess, of the N64 when it loads, which most
the expansion pack specifically? Or?
Yeah, right. The expansion pack, which most N64 games do. But for whatever reason, Paper Mario doesn't. And so what they figured out is you can set up a bunch of stuff in Ocarina of Time and then go swap the cartridges.
Hot swapping,
which you have to do in less than a second. Mm-hmm. And if you do it fast enough, the memory card doesn't realize that the game has been swapped. Super Paper Mario boots, doesn't clear the memory, and now starts executing the stuff that you set up in Ocarina of Time.
Which gets you to the credits like that, apparently. Yeah.
I'm going to point out it is just Paper Mario, because Super Paper Mario is a different game on the Wii.
I keep saying Super Paper Mario.
It's really hard because you want to say Super Mario, I feel.
Yeah.
And it's not like Super Paper Mario was even for the Super Nintendo.
No.
So
Nintendo naming, gotta love it.
It's a fantastic idea. People are saying, how do you even discover this? And it's like, well, you discover it because you know that Ocarina of Time is so busted that you can set up things that you need to have happen. And you're like, well, how can I get that same effect to happen in these other games where I can have arbitrary code injection? It's like, well, if we know that in the N64 that the expansion pack doesn't clear fast enough, it takes X amount of time to clear once power has been removed from it. We just don't remove power from it, and we just change the game real fast. That surely that would work, right? Like that you just kind of go through those.
It's a thing of this game
standing on the shoulders of
so
giants, right?
old at this point that it's been torn to pieces. Like everyone knows so much about it. But there's also the fact that if it's one of the only games not clearing anything, then you're not going to bother with the other games for like a hot swap technique.
Yeah.
So the new speedrun, any percent speedrun time. I don't know. I feel like this might get it stuck in its own category. But anyway, just Paper Mario. The previous speed any percent time was about 2 hours, and this has got it down to 54 minutes and 22 seconds. But half an hour of that is in Ocarina of Time. The setting up for this in Ocarina of Time takes a while. There's a bunch of stuff you have to do. I'm surprised that there's still like 24 minutes in Paper Mario. So clearly, whatever you're setting up in Ocarina of Time is not just go to the end screen. It's more complicated than that. But
I'm sure they'll work on it and see if they can find it
It's
to be a little faster.
maybe
somehow,
maybe it's like you have to get through all the beginning, the first like 15 minutes of story
There's-
or something in Paper Mario before you can actually do anything.
Yeah, there's something pure about these, especially like N64 games, and I mean GameCube is a little bit, but N64 in particular, when they couldn't, they can't update the cartridge. So what's on the cart? There's not going to be any updates to, Mario 64 to eliminate the weird backwards jumping thing. There isn't going to be any updates to Ocarina of Time to remove this, exploit. It's kind of fun. Like it's the game. They're just at this level of broken where their entire like the brokenness is manifested in a way that is entirely doesn't come up at all when you're actually playing the game. Like it's very difficult to do any of this stuff when you're actually like playing the game normally. The games play great and are very very bug free mostly, but there is these like weird little aspects that you can get into that you when you have the time available.
So Blade Tiger mentions in our chat, I can't wait to see Paper Mario OOT% at the next GDQ. And I think that's interesting because it means that you have to, because in order for this to work, you have to spend X amount of time now GDQ, right? So you're in front of an audience setting all this stuff up, and people do that all the time. They speedrun stuff in front of an audience all the time. And then it's the point that you have to do it. It's like, if I'm going to make my speed run, I have to be ready to get to the point where I need to do, and then I need to go to the N64, and I need to do the switch so fast, right? And if I don't do the switch properly, then I've completely screwed my speed run.
Yeah, gonna have to start over.
Dependent upon this one thing, and I'm like, and then if you have to start over because you're like, it didn't work, and how will you know if it worked or not until you've played through the Zelda bit, and then you get to the end of the thing, it's like, now I swap back, and we should be at the credits in like 3 seconds, and no, we're not.
There might be an indication, like I know from some speedrunning stuff I've seen where people try to speedrun Pokemon Let's Go and stuff. There's different areas where you're like, that you have to leave up to chance, and if you don't get the thing that you need, you're better off just booting and starting over.
Yeah, there's definitely,
and there might be something. There might be a couple of tells.
There's a lot of there's a lot of brutal speed runs that are that people do where like you play the game for half an hour or an hour, and then you get to the part that's you might get the wrong roll and your speed run is useless, and so you just have to do the whole thing again.
And you might not know that because you get to the you'll swap to the Zelda thing being like, I hope whatever I need is still in that memory pack, or because then you have to go back, obviously. So that'll mean that someone's going to design some sort of ribbon cable device that you plug into the top that you can put both cartridges in at the same time. That'll just have a switch where you can just switch it over.
Oh, right.
And be like, yeah, kill the one side and go right to the other side immediately, and provide power from one cart to the other cart, and then swap back.
Is hot swapping a thing that gets emulated in emulators at all? Like, is that a thing they do?
I'm sure.
I haven't seen one where you've done it, but yeah, I think you can do it.
I mean, I'm sure it could be done in an emulator, although there's some, depending on the emulator. I mean, some emulators are more into emulating the like real deep down stuff than others.
I imagine you'd probably still do the hot swapping if you're going for like the actual speed run, but I kind of wonder if these are things that you can test within an emulated.
I would guess so, yeah.
Thing, because then that would be able to tell you if you're doing it right. Like,
I would guess that there's at least some sort of emulation system that you can debug your thing to figure out. Otherwise, it would just take forever.
Well, and as Tristal points out in the chat, it'd be difficult not to do it in an emulator, right? Because if an emulator has all this stuff already loaded into RAM and already is marking a part of RAM to be like, this is the expansion pack memory in this spot, you could just say, don't wipe the expansion pack memory.
Yeah,
you or just literally have a flag. Yeah,
or like save it to your hard drive and then reload it from the hard drive. Like theoretically, an emulator can do anything, right?
Yeah.
All right. More stuff. Very minor update in the continuing Apple versus Epic lawsuit stuff. Not, obviously as we talked about, this has been going on for months and months and months and months and months. One of the so there's a new date has been set for the trial starting, which is May 3rd. And what is kind of interesting is that the judge in charge, Yvonne Gonzalez Rogers, has mandated that it be an in-person trial. That she feels that both of the plaintiffs or both of the parties have the resources to be able to, do the whatever safety precautions are necessary for coronavirus stuff. And she feels that it's going to be it will be a more that it will get a better, more true result or whatever. That I think I'm sure I'm sure there's been I'm sure there's studies about that. I would guess people give different testimonials, or or have a different feeling, delivering a testimonial remotely as opposed to sitting there in the trial room with the judge right there and the bailiffs and in the witness stand and being cross-examined is a lot different than just sitting in your home on Zoom or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. But that's apparent, who knows in terms of whether that will actually happen. A lot of it is dependent on, how California, like if California locks down, because it's what happened in California. If California locks down again, then maybe it won't happen. But
yeah. Well, that'll be a thing I'm sure we'll be talking about for years to come.
More steps forward. This is going to be a thing fought for a while, and that's understandable.
Fantasian, which is a new game by Hironobu Sakaguchi, in the studio Mistwalker, which, if you aren't familiar, he was the main developer behind the original Final Fantasy games, and doesn't work for Square anymore as separate studio Mistwalker, but looks like a really neat game. But one of the really cool things about it is that all of the areas in it are real. It's all dioramas that have been made for real. And then the characters and stuff are CG on top of that. But the backgrounds and the sort of areas that you're in are actually all like these like little model diorama things.
This looks really nice.
It looks super sweet. Reminds me a little bit of if you played like the Neverhood. That was a game where like the whole game was claymation and it was the entire world. Actually, they just built it as a giant model and then went around taking pictures of stuff for all the backgrounds. And what I love about the, if you're into the, sort of old school-ish, 1 to 6 era Final Fantasies, he says, apparently Fantasian was inspired by Sakaguchi playing Final Fantasy VI. He was like, he and some of his colleagues, like when it came out on Super NES Classics like a few years ago, he was like, I should play this game again, and played it and was like, this is really good. Apparently I'm awesome. I should make more of these.
The dioramas, I mean, that's amazing from like an art and design perspective, that it's like you're going to have to make a thing that, I guess, heavy 3D scan it or something so that you can have characters walk around and you can have camera angles that that move. It's
Yeah,
not just
like
a set camera angle. It's
it's-
not like Final Fantasy VII where it's like you enter from one room and you walk along the whole pre-rendered whatever and then leave way in the background. It's like, no, it's going to follow you. It's going to walk with you, which is great. But the thing I love about it is they have this system called the Dimension system, which is
Yes.
Dimension Dungeon.
Yeah.
And what happens is if you turn that on and you walk on top of like randomly encountered monsters, it just spits them into a dungeon in an alternate dimension, and then at some point you'd be like, okay, now I want to fight everything, and then you go into it and you can just clean them all out at one time. I'm like, that's so good. It's like it's grinding, but you don't have to grind.
You batch
I
up
kinda
your random
wanna play that.
encounters.
Oh.
It's like, I don't have time to fight you, but I'm gonna want to fight you for the XP, but I don't have time to fight you because I want to go to a shop or I want to do some other shit, and then it's like, then you can fight everybody. I'm like, that's so good.
What's the release date on this thing?
So I don't want to play another JRPG,
You don't have to.
but still,
But I play my own games.
yeah,
When's this release?
I don't know. Doesn't actually say, I don't think.
Not in this article. It doesn't.
No.
Useless.
Anyway, there's a article on Polygon that talks about it. Go take a look. It's got a feature trailer that'll introduce that.
Boop, 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 boop. An 8-year-old has become the youngest ever pro Fortnite player.
Meaning that they're getting paid to do it.
They have signed with a actual like team. Joseph
I
Dean
don't know how to feel about this.
has signed a contract with Team 33, a professional esports team. Yeah, we are. This is getting into. I mean, people do it with football and basketball and soccer and stuff. But yeah, it's apparently this kid really kicks ass at Fortnite.
I'm trying to think about like when it's the one time it's like everyone's like, oh, child labor laws, whatever. Everyone's like, sure, but I also want to think about when I was a kid, and if I had been really good at a video game, good enough that someone came along and said, hey, we want to pay you to play that video game for us and enter tournaments for us, and you can sign this contract and get some money and whatever. I would like to hope that my parents would be on board with that, and I would think that, like, I feel like I'm on board with that if I was to be a parent, to be like, if my kid's in a state where I know they can handle that as long as it's like restricted, it's like you can practice, but you still got to do your schoolwork. Because kids are like actors, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a good actor as a child, you're going to be sought after to be in things. And responsible parents are going to be the ones that say, but you have to have a tutor, and you have to keep taking your classes, and you keep going through education. Education's important for so many reasons, right?
I would like to point out that I'm pretty sure child labor laws children aren't allowed to do work.
Yeah.
So much as you can't just make them do work and not go to school and undercut their pay and make them do dangerous things like play with knives.
Yeah, it's like people don't hire kids to be like a branch manager at a Wendy's, because kids generally aren't seen to have a certain level of sophistication and authority that you would need in a lot of those situations, right? I don't hire a kid to do my taxes. But if a kid is good at a thing, letting them do some work, if they're interested in doing it, is okay. The problem, I think, comes down to whether the kid is like, I don't want to do this anymore, right? Like, when I had a fucking paper route and I was done doing it, and my parents were like, no, you signed on to do this, you gotta keep doing it for the rest of the year, like, you gotta and like, I don't want to do it. And they're like, no, we're teaching you less about responsibility. I'm like, you're teaching me that I don't have the right to quit a job when I want to quit a job. And I've been in that situation as a child, and I was in that situation as an adult, where I was not.
You couldn't quit a job.
No, I was told by the co-op association.
Oh, that.
When I was in my business co-op courses, I was in a job, and it was clear that this was not going to go anywhere for me. And I was like, this is not working out. They want me to do something completely that I'm unqualified to do. I'm not prepared to do this kind of work. I just want to quit this and I don't care about giving up the money or giving up the credits or whatever. I want out. And I was told multiple times, well, if you're having a trouble, why don't we just do this and why don't we do that?
So-
My problems never got reported back to the main office. And so when I finally said, no, I'm quitting, they were like, you can't quit. So instead, I got fired by the people who had me as a co-op student. And then it was like, well, it's your fault you got fired. And I'm kind of like, you have taught me very specifically that what I want more than anything in my life is the ability to quit a job when I'm done working that job.
Yeah,
So-
okay. So there are things called contracts, and that will be a little bit different than a paper route.
Yep.
And probably applies a little bit more to your co-op experience, except not because you should have signed something then. That I'm assuming if a child has a signing bonus of 33K, their parents have signed, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, at least in this article, it seems like it's it's being set up because he can't actually compete in tournaments until he's 16.
Yeah, makes sense.
For one thing, Fortnite is ESRB teen rated and like Peggy 12 or whatever. So technically he's underage for even playing Fortnite, but that's not an actually legal thing. He has his parents. His parents are cool with him doing it. And so this is sort of, from what I understand, this is a little bit like this is similar to young athletes in other sports. Is that it's basically like they give you the money up front for sort of the option of getting you into the team when you are in this case 16 in order to do it. So apparently, it's the contract. They say the contract is like flexible and that it's not a like hard and locked in thing. So who knows what will actually happen? It's going to be another 8 years before. Like, is Fortnite going to be a thing in 8 years?
They're gonna try and make it be a thing for 8 years, definitely.
That's the aim,
if it
though,
survives,
right?
that's hard to say at this point.
Minecraft has been a thing for at least that long, I think. And I think if Epic has their way, it's that they want to make, like, I keep coming back to this thing that Tim Sweeney keeps saying he wants this to be the game. He wants this to be the game where all the games are part of this game.
Agreed, and Epic has the money to make that just keep going, but it is a game that requires a player base, and so there is a point where if everyone on the planet said we're not playing your game anymore because we're playing other game, or Fortnite has also not been the same forever.
That's true too.
It could be a completely different game by that point. Stuff happens, stuff changes.
Yeah. And if nothing else, I mean, if for this pro team, they might be like, if we hire this kid and Fortnite, because if Fortnite continues to be a thing, then when he is able to play for us, then great. We have signed this talent, and hopefully he will still be good. And if not, we'll just cut him loose and whatever.
Yeah,
We've wasted
like
a
other
piece of money.
sports.
In the meantime, though, like he streams and like sells merch and stuff. So it's like it's a marketing thing too, right?
Yeah, having a God, I really want to say having a sideshow character, like that's this kind of thing where it's like, yeah, we're the esports team that's thinking so far ahead, that's like so into esports that we're already hiring kids who are 8 years old who are going to be amazing talents in 8 years, like, and you can come watch them, you can do whatever. There's going to be a level of interest for people who be like, I want to see the unusual talent. I want to see the kid who is so good that a pro Fortnite team has already hired him 8 years in advance of his job.
Yeah. Again, pretty sure that's how sports actually works.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle is what it is. And if you and people want to pay to see the sideshow. And I understand why they're doing this. It's like you get people to show up to watch the amazing thing. Maybe this 8-year-old is amazing, right? Who knows if he's a good entertainer? That is part of being a streamer.
I mean, I would assume that
I don't know. I'm not going to go watch.
He's already a streamer, so presumably that's part of the reason why he got the gig. But,
yeah,
true enough.
That's.
Speaking of Epic, because they do Fortnite, they have just bought the developers of Fall Guys, so that's happening. So they now own another big streaming game.
Yup.
That was weird to me. to
Fall
see that
Guys,
happen.
Fall Guys
but
developers are super stoked. I mean, obviously publicly
well,
they
yeah.
have to be like positive about it, but they seem very happy about the whole process. One thing that's interesting is that at least for the moment, Fall Guys, which is currently in the Steam store, is not going to be taken out of the Steam store yet. At least not at the moment, which is different from like when Rocket League got bought by Epic. They stripped it from the Steam store almost immediately. So at least for the moment, Fall Guys is still going to be in the Steam store. And also, Rocket League also went free to play and stuff like that. And so far, they haven't have any announcements about that. So they seem to be, basically continuing business as usual for the moment. We'll see how that goes.
I mean,
acquired, but no changes right now.
Go ahead, Paul.
I was just say, considering all the like random IPs that shove their way into Fortnite, I'm expecting there to be all sorts of really weird looking like little bean people with the like design little minion type costumes.
I'm hoping we finally get our Tushy costume that we were owed.
Oh right.
Ask me about my butthole. What I think this can be likened a bit to what happened with Microsoft and Minecraft. Microsoft buys Minecraft, and they would have had every right to say, "Cool, now Minecraft only exists on Windows and Xbox, and go to hell, everybody else." They could have done that, and still would have been fine because that's a large market. That's probably the predominant market when it comes to playing Minecraft. But they didn't. They said, "Minecraft, we will continue to sell everywhere." Why? Because we like money, and I think that's a case with Epic where they're like, we may have acquired Fall Guys, and it's going to go up on the store. But probably there's a different thing to play here versus Rocket League, right? Rocket League might have been a thing where it's like there's an established play set of people. We know we can use that to suck people over into the Epic Game Store. Maybe that hasn't happened the way they expect, and so this is a different opportunity for them to be like, we'll do this with Fall Guys, but we won't take it off Steam because we know that when we did that to Rocket League, that it had a deleterious effect on people in the game.
It's possible. At the same time, I wouldn't put it past Epic to be like, we want to be the store platform that everyone buys everything from, which kind of feels like is the case the way they've gone after some indies and given them bonuses.
Yeah.
And supposedly also kind of given cold shoulders to those who don't agree. So it wouldn't surprise me if like a month or so from now they're like, no, it's now on our store only. Your stuff will save over and it's fine, but like you can't be over on Steam anymore for it. That just wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. And then there's a neat thing about a new demo with Pokemon Go using HoloLens. If you don't remember HoloLens, you'll be forgiven because it hasn't really had that much stuff going on. But HoloLens is Microsoft's not VR, AR lens thing, which to be honest is actually like one of the things that I'm kind of more interested in than VR in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's never really taken off in a serious way. So AR, so the idea here is, you put the lenses on and objects are in the real world around. The iPhones and iPads and various handheld devices have been doing that for a while, but that's kind of crappy because you're looking at it through like a little phone window. So the idea of like having it as adds glasses, I think is really super neat. HoloLens is not, at least in the various iterations that are around right now, is like the actual area that is HoloLens is not the full view, so it's kind of crappy.
Right.
So I don't know. Who knows what will actually come of it? But in order to keep people excited, they did demo Pokemon Go with HoloLens, which is one of those things where it's like, this is basically looking like how you imagined Pokemon Go would be like when you saw the
Right.
first like videos of Pokemon Go, like the the Pokemon are really in the world there.
Yeah,
and
the Pokemon, that first Pokemon Go video really made
you
it
can, like-
feel a lot different.
Yeah.
you can like throw out the Pokeball and like Pikachu comes up and then you can like feed him stuff and he'll like walk around behind you and hang out with you as you're walking around, and like it's super neat.
Yeah.
But it's like cool, but this is just a demo. This will never actually not that it will never actually happen, but
It won't happen in this way.
it won't happen in this way. And the HoloLens tech, at least from what I understand at this point, it's not that well developed, and also super expensive. I think they've mostly been getting some traction in like the more like technical stuff and like medical stuff and that kind of things. But
I will say that the demo video is a lot more believable to me that this is where the technology is, because when I'm looking at it, I'm like, God, I would not want to play a game like this because nothing is casting shadows. They're just a 3D thing sitting on top of what they assume is ground, and it's just sitting there. And I'm like, but they're not casting shadows. And then I'm seeing like the tails whip, and it looks like, did one of those go through the ground? No, it couldn't have gone through the ground because it doesn't know the ground is there. It just went in front of the ground as like a thing. It's because of the overlay thing. And I'm like, I want it to know where the ground is so the tail can like hit the ground and stop, or like swish, or like I want it to feel like it's way more real than that.
I don't know if I want a thing to feel too real if I'm walking out in the real world with it. Like, I want something so I can differentiate between this isn't real and this is definitely real.
I just want things to cast shadows.
there's a great
Again,
line.
that's
There's a great. I think it's from one of the Asimov's book, but the great thing one of the people says is to flip the idiom on its head is technology distinguishable from magic is insufficiently advanced. I want it to be magic.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to watch magical VR be a thing, you should watch the last season of Supergirl that went up on Netflix. They have little contact lenses, and all they do is they go like this, and they're magically in their eyes.
Yeah.
Jesus.
That alone is magical technology.
I mean, I really like the newer iPhones and the newer iPad Pros having the LiDAR sensors and that kind of thing. I really like that that's a thing, and that's going to make AR more immersive. But I mean, it's frustrating to have to hold up your phone to be like, I need to have my phone up, I need to be holding a thing in my hand in order to see the AR thing. Like the idea of having glasses I can wear that will be able to like write a little bit of stuff over what it is that I'm looking at is interesting. It's kind of cool, but I wouldn't want to wear them when I drive.
well, no,
Right? Even though it'd be a great way to use for GPS to be like, I need you a little arrow that comes up like turn this way, be like, okay, cool. I don't have to take my eyes off the road. I just know that it's supposed to do this. But put that on my windscreen. I want that there maybe instead. Put it in the corner. Show me a thing that says you need to go this way. You need to go
Doesn't
this
that
way.
I
already-
never want to be in a car like that.
They
Doesn't
do
that
that
already
in a lot of
exist?
cars
Yeah, yeah.
already. Yeah, mostly the HUDs on cars these days are more likely they tend to be like, here's a digital readout of how fast you're going, and then here's a couple other things you need to know about what you're doing in your car. And it's not meant to be so much information you find distracting. It's just meant to be just enough to kind of give you the bare strokes. So it's like, I need to know how fast I'm going. Yes, I can see that without having to glance all the way down at my speedometer. But yeah, but I mean, like industrial applications, commercial applications where you can be wearing these things and you can be doing inventory with them, or you can be like diagnosing something, or you can be able to pull up like information on stuff you're working on. I think that's cool.
Minority Report,
Kind of, yeah.
thing where, or The Expanse actually has lots of cool stuff with that, where like somebody's like phone, and they just kind of go whoop, and then like throw it onto the screen and like
Yeah.
Which is,
I mean, that'll be what they do, right? Like that'll be the way they end up doing it. Is like, oh, it's an easy thing to understand.
But like,
Yeah.
as somebody who does a lot of work with computers and stuff, like whenever I see that, I always think like, pull it up, flip, Oh wait, no, sure. I've got a thing flip. Oh no, it's the wrong format. Wait, I
Yeah.
have to change it. No, which is this setting on? Oh, it's got to be on. It's got to be on channel 3 in order for it to show up on the thing. This is an older phone. I guess it's not.
Yeah.
It's not compatible with the thing. Maybe if I hold it closer.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But
That will be the reality. You're right.
yeah,
It'll be you'll
nothing,
have
nothing
instead of
works as
having
nicely as it shows.
one screen with 30 tabs on it, you'll have an entire airspace with 60 tabs in 60 different areas.
My my go-to metaphor is always, it's like, imagine we design this like fully VR system where you can like walk around inside your computer and be like, I want to do this thing. Wah! I want to do all these things. And then somebody builds a thing where you can just type the name of the thing you want to do.
Right?
And hit enter, and that suddenly happens. And it's
Way
like,
less
wow,
exhausting.
this is a huge innovation. Like, yeah, it's tricky. Anyway, I think that's the last news story I have marked here is there's some more, not really new Stadia stuff, but some other stuff with the Stadia thing. I think
Right.
kind of skip that for the moment, and we'll see how the Stadia stuff develops. At some point, we're probably going to have to do another deep dive on Stadia. But yeah, it's just
We'll see how quickly they fall apart.
yeah. Anyway,
I mean, I think that where they're at right now, just to give my sense of that though, is that this has to be eroding more confidence in the platform. And the fact that I say that out loud and I also don't give a shit about the platform, I think is probably even itself is starting to contribute to the confidence eroding in the platform.
like
Yeah.
it's kind of a death spiral thing, right?
They,
Like
they
it's,
needed to build confidence since the beginning because of who was running it.
Yeah.
And that never really, as far as I'm concerned, never really was a thing that happened a lot.
So I would, if nothing else, I mean, I'd keep an eye out to see if Stadia ends up making really big gestures to try to shore up confidence in other ways. I think that would be the next thing that they do, is to be like, they have to try to make a big move to say to people,
That would
it's
be
like,
the next thing they should do.
right? It's like, but we need
Whether
you to
they
believe
do
in
it
us, right?
or
Like,
not is a different.
Yeah.
it's
But that's what I'd keep an eye out for, is that I think that's the next thing, is they're going to try to do something that they think that everybody wants them to do. And it's like, you might not get there, but I can see that that'll be the next big move for them.
Yeah,
As an
I do want
alternative-
to.
as an alternative, if you're looking for a set-top box, keep an eye on cheap Stadia boxes. I'm sure somebody will put Linux on it and get it going.
Yeah.
I do want to clarify that when you guys were talking about it, Graham said that all the people who used it had fiber or whatnot, and there was like a comment that said you don't actually need fiber and like super high tech stuff to use this, and that's true. But that comment was more making fun of the idea that the people who often run these things, though, have access to the highest tier of everything, and so they don't have that viewpoint of what is the lowest tier a person actually has, and doesn't seem to think that a low tier actually exists.
Yeah.
And
That's more what that was about.
well, and it's also like, for something like Stadia, I mean, bandwidth is important, but latency is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I would guess most of the people testing Stadia were probably, in and around the,
Yeah,
Google
probably didn't
campus.
have the problem with that.
like, even if you're on Wi-Fi, if you're like right there, it's still going to be good latency. Anyway. Thanks everybody for watching. Let's talk about what's coming up next. And what's coming up next is Friday Night Paper Fight, where we're going to be playing with the magical cards, paper this time. We're going to be playing Commander with two Bens, Ben Ulmer and Ben Wheeler, and Nelson, and our friend Tappy, aka Tappy Toeclaws,
Cool.
who you may have seen in one of our pre-releases. She's going to be joining us as a special guest. And then on Saturday, James is back to Escape from Tarkov after having to take Wednesday off because of server maintenance.
PUBG flashbacks. That's what I got from that.
And then on Sunday, Heather and Ian are doing more taiko drumming.
Yep, I'm going into the studio this week.
Ooh.
It'll be fun.
And then after Rhythm Cafe is a brand new show. It's called Is This Your Card? And Ben Wheeler and various guests will be looking at all sorts of digital card games. Kind of doing a deep look at them. He's gonna be spending a month per game, so once a week for a month. In some cases, 3 episodes or whatever, but it's once each game will be a full month. And Legends of Runeterra is going to be this one. So for March, it's going to be Legends of Runeterra. Should be super sweet. And then on Monday, it is episode 4 of Alien First Law. Things have been going very well for everybody involved, except for the humans.
I hear if you like numbers going down, that it is going very well.
Great.
I mean, like in aggregate, like the aliens and the androids are all very happy. It's only the humans that are upset. So really, like 2 out of 3 isn't bad. So now let us welcome all the awesome people who subscribed during this stream. Here's a fancy scroll of the people who subscribed during the stream. All these wonderful people. Wicker Guide.
If you have not seen this before, it's because you missed live.
Yeah, I missed live.
Wicker Guide with the 42 months. Thank you. Nice.
Thank you, anonymous gifter.
Yeah, an anonymous gift, but thank you. Thank you for the anonymous gift. Mike Smith with the 81 months. That is...
Westra's got 4 months. Thank you for coming back.
Eldrin has a birthday.
6 years.
Yay.
That's 6?
Thank you. Yeah, 72 is 6.
And
a lot of multiples of 9 in there.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. It's kind of weird, actually.
And 750 bits from Bullseye 3265, Coyote of the 9, Xantos 69, Farabender 27. Thank you all for your wonderful support and for all the awesome things that you do for us, both here on Twitch and on Patreon and on the YouTube memberships. If you're watching this on YouTube, the latest Askler went up just a few days ago with
the
Nelson and Matt and Adam, which is a fun mix of people who aren't necessarily on streams together very often. So it was kind of fun.
Adam got some artwork. Someone did fan art of his furry self as a giraffe or something, and that comes from that discussion on that episode. So you might, if you want to know where that came from, go check out that. If you're a YouTube member, you can go to the community page for youtube.com/loadingreadyrun and submit questions for I think it's Graham, Ian, and Cameron, I believe, are the people for next month.
Are we gonna have to get Adam like an old, now that Toys R Us in the States has closed down, there's got to be a lot of those like
we still have
Joffrey the giraffe or whatever the hell his name was.
I don't think they've used those in a long time.
So maybe there must be some fursuits floating around that we can just like put a beard on and.
Why don't we just find him a giraffe stuffy?
There we go. Geoffrey, that's what it was. Geoffrey, yes. Geoffrey the giraffe.
Isn't that just Jeffrey?
That's what you think.
Joffrey has bad connotations in my mind from
it does.
Game
Me
of
too.
Thrones.
Yeah.
I don't want a stuffed animal with that. Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. Be back in about an hour and a half for Friday Night Paper Fight. But in the meantime, we will talk to all y'all later.